Hey guys, my name's Andrew Garcia, and I picked to do my ecological topic on competition. So when we think of competition, it could really be defined as the interaction between two or more individuals, both requiring the same limited resource that when used or defended by one individual, reduces the survival or reproduction of the other individual. So that definition really can be broken into three parts. The first part being the two or more individuals. By that, we mean either intraspecific or interspecific. So intraspecific, it's in the prefix. Intra means within, so within the same species. And interspecific, which is what I'm mainly going to be focused on, is the interaction between two different species. So that would be the first part. The second part is the limited resource part. So both requiring the same limited resource. When we think of a resource, that's basically something that is consumed and then reduced. So for example, water, food, space. If we're closed in the same room, oxygen, if the vents are closed at least. And then going off that, the most limited resource would be the limiting resource. So the limiting resource is what ultimately determines the population growth rate. So that would be the second part. The third part of the definition is when used or defended by one individual. So when we say used or defended by, that's really more the competition part, is like the direct interactions between the species, or indirect. So we have interference competition. With interference competition, that's basically the direct fighting between two individuals. So for example, alleliopathy, or just two animals fighting, battling it out for like the female or space, whatever the case may be. But I'll get into that later when I talk about the examples. And so the second part of competition, or the defended part, would be exploitative competition. And with this competition, it's really more of an indirect path. So for instance, when one species gets to the resource before the other species does, and limits that population until basically it goes extinct. But as I said, I'll get into that later when I talk about the examples. Okay, so for this example, I use it as interference competition, or the direct fighting for resources. Because as you can see, even though the pine trees are not necessarily alleliopathic, when these pine trees shed their pine needles, the pine needles actually have alleliopathic characteristics because they are preventing other plants or shrubs from different species from growing around them. And as you can see right here, as the pine trees are all around the pine, or the pine needles are all around the pine trees, you don't see any other species of plants growing around them because there's no room or space in there. These pine trees are directly interacting to fight for these resources that no other plant species can obtain right now. So for this example, it would demonstrate exploitative competition, because as you can see here, there's an indirect interaction between these palm trees for a limited amount of resource. And specifically here, as you can see, the palm tree is sticking out. They are competing for sunlight. So that would be an example of exploitative competition, because it's an indirect interaction.